Welcome back to another Tail Wag Briefing. This timely July series, we're covering something we as pet sitters and dog walkers talk about all the time: the weather. But have you ever considered if that conversation is more than just idle observation? When OSHA is providing weather-related guidance documents, that is your signal as the safety leader for your business to acknowledge the weather itself is an occupational hazard for your team. For those of you who have already developed your weather emergency plans for your area, are you sure you're addressing the same recognized hazards as OSHA? Let's get into the main topic for this month, and we're going to be working our way through OSHA level weather hazard considerations. This month, you can find the Tail Wag sessions and the full year of sessions available on Field Notes, the number 4, petpros.com. If you're a Pet Sitters International member, check your monthly newsletter for a special discount code on all the bundles available. So let's get into this morning's introduction to weather and how it interacts with hazard recognition in the pet sitting and dog walking industry. Why weather matters for safety. Pet sitters and dog walkers are outdoor workers in a profession that rarely names itself that way. Our work continues through ice, heat, like this past week, through advisories, reduced daylight, blocked access, and sudden storms because the pets still need care. That reality creates occupational risk that has to be managed before the sitter is standing on an icy step or is halfway through a hot afternoon route. Weather-related injuries are common because the hazard often sits between the car and the front door. It sits on surfaces that your team did not choose and cannot control. Heat risk is just as serious because it builds gradually while the sitter is focused on the animal, the schedule, the route. From a professional standard, when weather conditions deteriorate, the visit may still be necessary, but the way in which it is performed must change. And modification of a visit is not failure to complete the job. It is a safety control for your team. Winter hazards, as we all know, can compound quickly. A walkway that was passable at noon can be black ice by late afternoon. A dog walk that seemed manageable at 25 degrees Fahrenheit can become a frostbite concern when wind chills drop sharply. The risk is not only the weather itself, it is the pressure to keep moving from between visits when the safer answer might be to pause, reassess, and maybe change the task. So required PPE? Oh, PPE, we talked about that last month. Traction devices are required during icy or snow-covered conditions. Workers may not conduct visits without them when the walkways are iced or snow-covered. A winter field protocol might be that you are wearing traction devices before you're stepping out onto icy or snow-covered walkways. It's going to be assess that walkway before even approaching it. Pause at the vehicle or property edge. If the surface is unsafe because of ice or a lack of snow removal, follow the stop work authority procedures. That's something that we don't carry in pet sitting, do we? We plow through. Use additional lighting. Winter time, winter daylight or nighttime requires a flashlight or a wearable lighting for entrance and exit safety. Check the interior temperatures of the home. If the home appears below safe temperature thresholds for humans or pets, you need to notify the management office immediately. You may need to limit the outdoor dog walking time. Extreme cold and wind chill may require a shorter walk, a potty break only, or indoor enrichment. So here's your field example. You arrive after a light snowfall and the client's walk looks untouched. The dog needs that midday potty break, but the first step is glazed over. What's the right call to make here? What do you think? Is a broken wrist acceptable if they slip on that step? Heat and summer protocols. Oh my golly, we did that whole podcast last week, interrupted the whole series to get out that heat and summer protocol because of the heat wave that we all are living through, have lived through, dealt with. I know in my own area, 3 out of 5 clients did not even have air conditioning because we had no power because our grid couldn't handle it here. So that we have to look at the heat, not just in context of the pet, but in context of your team and your staff. And if you have questions about what a practical heat, illness, and injury protocol looks like, swing back to last week's field note. Listen to that one, and you'll get a really good idea of how serious OSHA is about their national emphasis program for heat, illness, and injury. Most of us are going to have a severe weather and natural event protocol. These severe weather decisions must prioritize human and animal safety above task completion. Always remember, a visit can be modified, shortened, delayed, or escalated through your company's protocol. A worker should not face walking into a known hazard simply because the scheduled task is still on a calendar. We know that we should not be walking dogs during lightning and high wind events. Use indoor enrichment alternatives if travel becomes unsafe. Visits may be postponed following your company's protocol. Listen to that. Visits may be postponed following your company protocol. That means somewhere in your safety policy manual, you have already decided what that cutoff point is. It is not something that you cook up on the day of everything going sideways. These are things, these weather hazards, since there's already OSHA guidance out there, these are things that you need to already have a safety policy for, and then you're going to write your SOP around that policy. You notify that your team should be notifying management of your route disruptions, if there's blocked access, unsafe roads. Around here, where I live, the neighborhood conditions can vary from 2 miles apart. Conditions can be tremendously different, especially in wintertime. Do not enter properties that are affected by down wires, flooding, structural damage, or other hazardous neighborhood conditions. And yes, my company does maintain a stop work threshold, or what I call a single point of failure program. So there is OSHA and regulatory relevance that goes with all of this kind of stuff. Weather hazards connect directly to your employer obligations to provide a workplace free from recognized hazards. For pet care work, that means workers must be trained to recognize unsafe weather conditions. They must modify visits when conditions change and report hazards that cannot be controlled in the field. The reference for this module is going to be the OSHA General Duty Clause, the OSHA Heat Illness and Prevention Guidance, and note for California employers, you're going to be subject to your own state requirements. This module does not add federal heat citations beyond the safety manual. The manual contains the OSHA Heat Illness and Prevention Guidance and notes that no federal heat standard currently exists, but there is a national emphasis program for heat illness and injury, and that creates the recognized hazard setup. So the practical implementations, you're going to, before a route, check a forecast, the wind chill, heat index, lightning risk, route conditions. Make sure your team is packing appropriate seasonal personal protective equipment. That may be traction devices, lighting, water, phone backup powers, rain gear, umbrellas, flashlights. At the property, they're going to want to be, scan that first 10 feet before you step out of your car. During the visit, shorten or move a task indoors if weather conditions prove inclement. And for pet sitters and dog walkers are outdoor workers. There are outdoor employees. That's why I called this field notes. Weather hazards are occupational, and weather hazards are occupational hazards for us. Traction devices are required PPE for icy conditions. Winter begins at the approach. Heat illness can compromise a team member before they realize it. Lightning, high winds, flooding. Key takeaway here, weather can change the job, and a professional sitter reads that condition, modifies the task, communicates it early and clearly, and stops when the route or property is unsafe. That is it for this morning's Tail Wag Briefing. Thank you for listening along. I appreciate every single one of you that are here. And remember, if you're a Pet Sitters International member, check your newsletter from PSI for your discount on the Tail Wag Briefings. They can function for you as documentation of ongoing safety training. Thank you and have a productive and, of course, have a safe week.